In order for you to transmute negative energy into positive energy, you must have acknowledged the negative energy for what it is. Welcome or welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, Ty Guidance, and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, with that being said, because there's no right or wrong way to heal yourself, always and only take what resonates as well as leave the rest. So if it doesn't apply, then it's not aligned and it's not for you. As well as grab your pens, grab your paper, and be prepared to take notes. In this video, we're going to go over and discuss how to quote unquote transmute negative energy into positive energy, as well as what you should expect, certain recommendations, certain reminders, and just certain things that you should be aware of, and disclaimers. And the reason why I'm saying quote unquote is because negative energy and positive energy is the state of being, and it's a choice. Now, before we break that down and get into the nit and the grit, the first disclaimer is that in order for you to not feel this negative energy, quote unquote, you must acknowledge, and identify what you consider to be negative. Whether it's a feeling, emotion, a people, place, or thing. You have to become familiar with the negativity. Once you are able to identify the negative energy or the negative experiences, you then have to ask yourself, how is it making you feel? And that's the second thing. In order for you to discern what is negative and what's positive, you have to realize, how is this impacting me? Whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, or financially. So if you're around certain people, places, and things, and let's just say they say things and do things that you consider to be negative, you then need to ask yourself why. And number 3, the reason why you need to ask yourself why is because once you realize how certain people and places and things are affecting your emotions and your mindsets, number 4, you then get to decide how you're going to react and respond. But in order for you to react and respond in a positive way, or to transmute the energy, quote unquote, hopefully you understand now, you have to identify it. You have to come into an agreement with it. So now, number 5, just because certain people and places and things are negative doesn't mean that you have to absorb the energy. You can observe, like you can watch, you can be aware, you can be mindful, like you know what triggers you. But just because something may trigger you, or just because something causes you discomfort, doesn't mean that you have to come into an agreement with it or that you have to receive it. So for example, when certain people say certain things that you don't like, or try to do certain things that you know that's not in alignment with you and compatible with you, instead of you getting out of character, instead of you getting upset, instead for you to react and respond, instead of you just getting all hype, you can pause, you can reflect. You could keep your energy protected, which people say protect your peace, and then decide, does this deserve a reaction? Does this deserve a response? Or do I just need to go no contact? Do I just need to remove myself? And I'm speaking from experience. The more and more I was able to transmute negative energy into positive energy, the more and more I realized what was in alignment with me and what's not. And once you realize what's for you and what's not, and you're intentional and you're very strategic and you're not wasting your time with people, places, and things, you will experience it less and less. Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't going to be distractions. This doesn't mean that there are not going to be quote unquote negative people or bad people or evil people. It just means you don't have to control them and they don't have to control you. You can control yourself, because at the end of the day, you're only responsible for yourself. And once you decide to be responsible for yourself, once you start to hold yourself accountable, you will start being intentional about what you focus on, who you're surrounding yourself with, who you engage with, what you watch even. But until you acknowledge that you're not always going to be in alignment with certain people, places, and things, and vice versa, that is when you will constantly start to spiral. And that goes into the recommendations. When learning how to not have negative thoughts amongst yourself, whether it's projected or deflected, or people are saying things to you, you must learn to come to an agreement of what you dim or consider to be positive or confident or anything that you're not. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to know who you are and what it is that you want and what it is that you stand for. So until you learn what you want, what you consider to be healthy, what you consider to be positive, what you consider to be good or confident, you don't need to be worried about anything else. And that's number 2. Once you realize who's positive, what's confident, what's loving, what's light, what's keeping you at a high vibrational, state of mind and state of being that's pouring into you and it's not draining you, you have to make sure that you're only focusing on those things. So if you think people, like me personally, I don't like people who always have to like fight and yell to get their point across. Once I've accepted that that's not something that I do, that's not how I want to carry myself, that's not how I want to be perceived, I just am mindful. Because it exists. Like, there are going to be people fighting and yelling and screaming and acting how they want to act. And that doesn't make them less of a person. That doesn't make me better than them. But it's just like, if I know that's not how I want to carry myself as a woman, then I don't need to be surrounding myself with people who carry themselves like such. And how do you know? You have to learn how to pay attention to what people say. You have to learn how to pay attention to what people do. And you always have to be mindful of your surroundings. And the more and more you're mindful of your surroundings, and the more you're intentional about what it is that you're doing, you can avoid negativity. You can transmute the negative energy. But if you don't spend time with yourself, if you don't know, what you can do that's negative or positive, then that's when somebody is like, let's just say, assertive or aggressive in a negative way, tries to come for you, you'll feel the need to react and respond. And I'm speaking from experience. Like, there were people who knew that I wasn't like aggressive or assertive, and they were like, rah, 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 rah. Now, of course, I've never let anybody just like put their hands on me. That's a different topic for a different video. Like, if you're having to defend yourself, like if you're in danger or safety, that's a different topic within itself. That's when I will draw a line, right? Because at this point, it's like, you can call the police, you can get authority, you could sue people, you could take them to court, or if you need to, like I said, if you're defending yourself, and it's life and death, that's a different topic. That's where it's like, yeah, you don't let nobody put your hands on you. I was raised, don't let nobody put their hands on you. That's different. But if it's not a life and death situation and people just they're just talking, you let them talk. And I realized that. So on the outside, to people, it's like, oh, well, she's weak because she's not. No, babe, I'm not raunchy. Like, I don't want to have to curse you out. I don't want to have to yell. It's like, I don't find that attractive. Anybody. I don't think, especially as an adult. Now, it's like when you're younger and you weren't taught and shown how to communicate, you weren't taught and shown how to deal with your emotions, you weren't taught and shown how to articulate yourself. It's like, okay, like, I'm not judging young people or people for being angry or being upset or like people playing with them. But me personally, what I realized is that it's a specific kind of person. It's a specific kind of energy. And like I said, this was the quote unquote negative energy for me. Like, once I was able to identify the negative spirits, let's talk about it, the negative entities, I had to realize, you are distracted. You are at war with yourself. You hate yourself. You have insecurities. You are envious. Like, you are not connected to the ancestors, God, and universe. I don't have time for that. I'm telling you, let people think what they want to think about you. Let people talk. As long as, like I said, they're not putting their hands on you. Because like I said, it's so many different ways to handle that. Don't worry about what they're saying. Because that's all they're going to do. Because if you guys ever have been in a physical altercation, if somebody is going to put their hands on you and they really, like, if it's really that bad, people will just fight. Like, I'm not going to be oblivious. I'm not going to act like I've never had moments where I have not been upset or disappointed. But I've realized over time, I was able to recognize the pattern recognition early. Like, in order for me to transmute this negative situation for what it is, I just had to start seeing certain people for who they are. And that's the fourth thing. You have to realize that there are going to be some people in this world who don't want to change, who do not see any wrong with what they do. They don't care about themselves. They don't care about anybody. And that's just how they want to be. Like I said, we don't have to judge them. We don't have to look down. But once you realize something is quote unquote negative and you don't want nothing to do with it, you have to leave it alone. Because the moment you give it your time, your energy, and effort, you then start to become on the same frequency. And that's what I realized, like, personally, like, the times, and it's not a lot of times. Not a lot of people can be like, oh yeah, I got it. No, you haven't. You're a liar. And the people that did, you have to realize, when people, like I said, are negative and you are just not like able to see things for what it is, you will react and respond. Like, I've had moments where I've reacted and responded immediately. And that doesn't make me less of a person. That doesn't mean that I'm not positive. Most people have got into it with people, whether it's verbally or physically. Once again, this doesn't mean we're less of a person, but you do become better when you change your ways and you don't continue. So like I said, if you grew up in an environment where it was aggressive, it was assertive, you had to be defensive, okay, cool. But once you've decided that you want to remove yourself from these type of environments and that you don't want to continue to be a certain type of way, you don't. For me, I've realized that growing up, I had to work on me dealing with my reactions and my response. Not because, like I said, I was soft, not because I was weak, but just because I've realized there were people who were trying to like pick. There were people trying to manipulate. There were people, like, unfortunately, there are people who do these things. Like, I'm not just making things up. There are going to be people who try to have problems with you because, like I said, they're not mentally stable. They're not emotionally stable. They're used to chaos and corruption. And as someone who is not used to chaos and corruption, but has been aware of chaos and corruption, you just have to realize it's not for you. So it's like transmuting negative energy doesn't have to be a negative experience. Doesn't mean, like I said, you're still not a good person or you being a good person is for no reason. But you just have to realize what you're putting your time, energy, and effort to. And like I said, the more and more you are secure with yourself and you know what's positive and what's negative, you can discern immediately, because everyone doesn't have discernment. Everyone does not have discernment. Common sense is not that common. Like, if common sense was common, boys and girls, everybody would think the same. We don't. Especially if you live in an environment, like I said, where there was a lot of corruption, confusion, and chaos. And for me, earlier in my life, it wasn't even the fact that I was being exposed to negativity, quote unquote, but just realizing that some things just weren't for me, and that's okay. And the times where, you guys, I had got a notification, my bad. The times where, like I said, I had matched the negative energy, I realized immediately, that's what some people want. You guys heard that? That was my stomach. Oh my gosh. I need to get something to eat after I record this video. But like, once you realize that certain people in places and things are like draining you, because that's what it was. It was so draining. It wasn't the fact that like, oh, I need to defend myself. I don't care to defend myself. Whatever you heard about me, whatever you want to think, you've already made up in your mind. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. So it's like, if someone says they don't like you, I didn't ask you to, you don't have to. But it was just a simple fact that like, just because you are somebody who is positive or cool and calm, collect, doesn't mean that you just allow people to say things to you. And that's just what it was. I just had to realize that, you know what? I don't have to defend myself if I could just remove myself. And it just made me realize early on, you guys, I learned this early on in life, that I just don't need to be around certain people, places, and things because I consider it to be negative. And that's okay. You are allowed to have things that you consider to be negative. You're allowed to have things that be positive. All I ask and all I condone and promote on this account is that you're not intentionally trying to hurt and harm people or sabotage people. This doesn't mean that you don't have things that you can work on. This doesn't mean that you're perfect. This doesn't mean that I'm not perfect. But it's like, if we're consciously aware and constantly improving ourselves, because that's what we do as well. We motivate, inform, and educate, and we're constantly improving ourselves, then that's hot. But it's like, it's okay if you've made certain choices and you had to learn from them. But when you continue to do it, that's when it becomes a habit. And that's when it becomes an issue. So if you want to transmute negative energy, you have to just be mindful of what you consider to be negative. You have to start acting on it immediately. And you can't make excuses. Because a lot of times, the people and the places and things that you consider to be negative are people and places and things that you need to outgrow. For me, like I said, the times where I've had to have exchange of words with people and it wasn't as polite as I wanted it to be was simply because I didn't need to be talking to these people in the first place. All y'all shit. I'm telling you from experience. If you are a positive person majority of the time, if you're minding your business and you're chilling and you're living your life and you're not out here, like I said, causing confusion, corruption, if you're not an evil person, like if you have a conscience, it's no reason for you to constantly experience negativity. If we're being completely honest, like if you evaluate it and let me know, have you ever realized that people that you've got into it or the people who wanted you to get out of character were people you didn't want to be friends with, people you didn't want to work with, even people you want to live with sometimes? because it is going to be people that are closest to you because you don't know anybody else. But it's like once you realize that certain people are not willing to change, or certain people are not willing to be respectful, or certain environments just make you feel drained, make you feel like you have to second guess yourself, make you feel like you have to constantly explain yourself. Like a lot of times when I was conversing with certain people, it's like if they don't hear what they want to hear, they're gonna run with it. And it's like, I don't have time to be having conversations with people who lack comprehension skills, who lack emotional intelligence. If you want to hear one thing knowing I said the other, that's on them. If you've made up if people make up in their mind that they don't want to like you, let them not like you. Do not go back and forth or lose your peace over people and places and things that you quote unquote consider to be negative. And the more you practice this, I'm telling you guys from experience, the more and more you're able to transmute it and only focus on the things that are for you. And that's what we want to do in 2026. We want to be living our beautiful, blessed, abundant life. We don't want to be struggling. We don't want to be suffering, because that's a choice. That's a different topic within itself. And we want to be reaping the benefits and the fruits of our labor. Like, we want to be living our best lives. We want to be having fun. Like, this is what this account is for. Having fun, living life, being blessed, being positive, and just surrounding yourself with people who are genuine, who are authentic, allowing yourself to have communities with people who are supporting you. No hate, no animosity, no insecurities, no rumors, no gossip, like none of that. And like I said, if you've done that in your past, okay, cool. But once you decide to turn on your post notifications and subscribe, that's it. We're not doing that. So thank you guys for watching this video all the way to the end. Let me know what you want to talk about. Let me know if you've experienced this yourself. Make sure to follow me on all my social media platforms. All the information is down in the description box below, as well as letting me know what you guys want to talk about in the next video. But that's how you're going to start transmitting negative energy. And if you want in a depth, detailed with specific things, because I just started to like motivate it was supposed to be more like more recommendations, but I just started speaking from my experiences because I want you guys to understand, like, it is something that you have to practice. I'm not dismissing anybody. I'm not invalidating your experiences. I'm not trying to make it seem like, oh, it's easier said than done. No, I've gone through it. If I haven't gone through it myself, I wouldn't be able to speak the way that I'm speaking on it. But just let me know, okay? You are loved. I love you. Until next time, peace. Thanks for watching.